many of the problems that a president owns are because of the chief of staff. So it's appropriate for us to learn that.
Right, and now we have, of course, a very different executive and a very different chief of staff.
And that is a challenge for democracy, but it's not as big as the challenge of social media. And this president has used social media, but it wasn't there for others to use earlier.
Meaning some other president could have done this before Trump did. That he just happened to be at this moment, or that
the technology wasn't there. George W. Bush loved email when he was running for president. When he became president, he stopped emailing because we told him he had to. The genie is out of the bottle in terms of social media and the role of the instant communication through so many different platforms now, and it's just a reality. We're losing the discipline of reflection before we speak. And we should be reflecting. I wish the president could do that. He changed it. He got elected because he had the capacity to do it. I don't think he can give up that seduction right now, and we should have known that. I should have known that who we saw running for president was who would be getting as president.
So is this now permanent, or is this, as Vice President Biden argues, this is an anomaly, and that the next president will look more familiar to you?
I pray that the next president will look more familiar to me, having served 3 presidents, up close and personal, Reagan, Bush, and Bush. But the reality is, I think the nature of expectations in the public will be that there will be regular and relatively contemporaneous communication from a president. So I don't think the president will have the luxury of taking more deliberative time to respond, because I think the public is now going to be saying, wait, we used to get the word right away and now we're waiting. So I think it's going to be very hard to change the expectations in the democracy.
And change the role of chief of staff, obviously. You have a chief of staff now who, by the way, I think is still an acting chief of staff, who famously says, let Trump be Trump. My job to do, as you guys have noted, to help get the discipline and some structure.
I'm going to defend Mike Mulvaney. The chief of staff,
why not do it now? This was as good as it was going to get, and he intended to go as big as he possibly could. So we had lots of debates that the president really wasn't directly, he was in the room, but it would often be the economic team, laissez-faire, let the markets work, insure 3 children and 2 seniors, and let's call it quits. You did something, let's go. And the president would say, how big can we go? How do we do this? And over again, including when Scott Brown picked up the Teddy Kennedy seat and was elected in Massachusetts, and we lost our 60th vote in the Senate. The president still said, how do we put this back on the table?
I want to step out to think about executive power. You've also been a governor. And so that used to be, at least going back to Carter, that was the pathway to the presidency. People wanted executives, people who've done things and had to have the buck stop with them. Now we've had a series of presidents who don't come from that background, whether from the Senate or from private companies. What do you make of that now about the executive? Is it as important to have that executive experience now to be president?
I think having a governor or a mayor is an important piece of the puzzle, but there is a difference, I would say, also in campaigning and governing. And I think President Obama knew this well. He wasn't running a campaign every day. He was really trying to govern a longer range. What can we get done? I have 4 years, and kind of measure it out and mark it out. If you are running a campaign every day in the battle du jour, if you don't have any vision beyond Friday, that's a pretty tumultuous and pretty unproductive way to govern at any level.
Would you argue that that's what we have right now?
I would say if this president can see to Friday, that's even a miracle. I'm not even sure if he has a 24-hour horizon, and I mean that seriously. I don't know what the horizon is, but I find that troubling. President Obama really was able to say, what can we get done in this period of time? And when it was clear that the Congress was not going to act in a very useful fashion once the Democrats lost the House and lost the Senate, he really turned to executive action, and the question was, how much authority do all of you have?
So there are some who would say, well, that it was the Obama administration then that began this process of more executive authority. Trump is continuing that, and that in this era of hyperpartisanship, nobody's going to get 60 votes ever again in the Senate, that this is how we're going to govern. Do you buy that?
I think there definitely is a lot of authority built into executive offices. And when a law is passed, the agencies write the rules and regs about that law. And those kind of are the implementation tools and define what are the rules and regs, and they can be debated. What is different, I would suggest, is that we were told to look at our authorities and our power. And I sat every day with our general counsel saying, where can we go? What's already there? What this administration, I would argue, is doing is, having failed to change the law, they are actually using executive authority to go around the law. A lot of what they're doing, I think, ultimately will be found by a court to be illegal. Yes, it uses executive authority, but I would suggest it's using it to undercut the law because they failed to get rid of the law.
Kathleen Sebelius served as President Obama's Secretary of Health and Human Services from 2009 to 2014. You're listening to WHYY. We're going to take a quick look at the WHYY forecast. A clear, sunny day today. Perfect weather to start the long holiday weekend. It's 76 degrees in Philly right now. We'll see a high of 80, a low of 59. In the beach towns in New Jersey and Delaware right now, they're showing temperatures in the mid to high 70s. Just perfect. Tomorrow, mostly sunny, a high of 75. Sunday, cloudy, a 20% chance of rain. And Monday, partly cloudy, a high of 83. You're listening to Politics with Amy Walter from The Takeaway. My next guest walked the halls of the White House from 2005 to 2007, but his relationship with President George W. Bush started more than a decade earlier.
Bush is first of all, he's a very normal person, but he's also a creature of habit, and his habits are very healthy.
That's Karl Rove.
He was always a reader. He was always somebody who, as governor, in a business beforehand, tried to surround himself with people who would tell him you're not looking too pretty. He liked process.
After advising Bush on his gubernatorial and presidential campaigns, Rove became President Bush's senior advisor and deputy chief of staff.
He would come early, 6:30 in the morning, but he'd leave at a reasonable time in the afternoon, even though we all knew that he was taking, next day's book of 150 pages of material and a lot of other stuff back up to the treaty room in his private office in the White House. But his message to us was, don't burn yourself out. I'm leaving here at 5 o'clock. No need for you to stay here till 8 or 9 o'clock at night and each and every night to the morning to impress me. I want you to go home and have dinner with your families and coming fresh tomorrow because we've got important work to do.
Now, the course of Bush's presidency was set in motion by one awful, tragic day. But while the 9/11 attacks were unprecedented, the response by Americans was familiar. The country rallied around the president as they had in previous times of national crisis. Within days, Bush's job approval rating rose by almost 40 points to 90%. It's hard to believe that same thing would happen today. When I asked Rove to reflect on the hyper-polarized time we're in, he told me he thinks the country is in a populist moment. Populism ushered in by both the left and the right. And when I asked him where all this populist energy goes, he brought up a president who don't think about these days, but one whom Rove wrote a book about, William McKinley.
I hate to dwell on my favorite election, 1896, but we have a period of 25 years of broken American politics that makes today look like it's a smooth-running machine. And we have a populist moment that emerges with the populists themselves, and it's expressed in a thoroughly populist Democratic presidential nominee. And in comes William McKinley, who wins the election by a message of national unity. We're all in this together. We labor and capital will rise or fall together. He says in dramatic remarks to the first visit of a Republican presidential candidate with Confederate war veterans that if we're ever forced to fight again, and God forbid that we shall fight as brothers under a common flag. So this message of national unity, basically populism doesn't go away, but it no longer is that dominant characteristic that it was in the 1895, 1896
Joe Biden is running as the national unity candidate.
Yeah, I thought it was very deliberate. Social media, also there before radio and television. And along came this powerful new means of communication, radio, and who took that and turned it into a means to create national unity? Franklin Roosevelt, with the fireside chats. So, does social media present a new challenge? Yes, it does. From this perspective, from a fundraising perspective, it provides a way for people to get financial support by appealing to deeply held, sharp beliefs, which tend to be ideological and on the fringes. That is a problem. But it also presents an opportunity to unite the country. Can you imagine having a president who is using the Twitter feed in order to appeal to our greater end? Can you imagine a different message in the aftermath of, say, Charlottesville or at a moment of national crisis? So yes, it is a neutral means that has been used for not neutral purposes, but can it be used for positive purposes? Yes.
So I think about that a lot. I think about the country reacting after 9/11, and there was that traditional rally around the flag and rally around the president. Do you think that would happen if something as horrible as that happened again, that we would do that, or are we the distrust that we have in these institutions is preventing that?
No, I think it would happen, but you put your finger on it. It happened in the aftermath of 9/11, but the broken nature of the political parties caused it to end at full part shortly thereafter. I mean, it's within a year we have problems with the congressional action on the authorization for the use of force. Presidential leadership matters to some degree in this, but at the seat of it is the parties are broken, and the trust in our institutions of government is low. It's low today. It was lower. It was low in the early 2000s, lower than it had been in, say, the 80s or even the 70s. We went through this terrible problem with Watergate. Institutions began to recover support in the 70s and the 80s, the 90s. But by the 2000s, for some reason, we began again to feel some distance between Americans and their institutions, and it's only gotten worse.